Picture this. It is a Wednesday afternoon. A 34-year-old man named Arjun is sitting in his car in a parking lot outside a grocery store. He has just gotten paid. Direct deposit. The notification blinked across his phone at 9:04 in the morning, and for about 6 minutes, he felt okay. Maybe even good. By noon, the rent auto payment had gone through. Then the EMI on the car he is currently sitting in. Then the credit card minimum, which covers last month's expenses, which included the previous month's shortfall. And now, at 2 in the afternoon, with a full paycheck already half gone, Arjun is doing what millions of people do every single payday. He is doing the math. Again, he has done this math before. He will do it again next month, and the month after that. And here's the part nobody talks about. The math is not wrong. The math is working exactly as designed. That is what this video is about. Not budgeting tips, not a hustle, not 5 passive income streams you can start tonight. This is about the actual structural reason why so many people who earn decent money, people who are not irresponsible or lazy or financially illiterate, still find themselves tethered to the next paycheck, like it is the only thing keeping the lights on. Because for most of them, it is. Here is a number that should make you pause. According to a 2023 report by the Financial Health Network, 54% of Americans are considered financially coping or financially vulnerable. That means more than half the country is either just barely managing or actively struggling. Not broke, necessarily. Not homeless. Just perpetually one bad month away from serious trouble. And before you say that is an American problem, the Reserve Bank of India's own household finance surveys tell a remarkably similar story. The majority of Indian middle-class households carry some form of debt, and a significant portion report that their monthly expenses consistently meet or exceed their monthly income. These are not people who are doing nothing. These are people working full-time jobs, sometimes two, paying taxes, filing returns, raising children, doing what they were told to do. So the question is not whether this is happening. The question is why. To understand the paycheck cycle, you have to understand something called consumption smoothing. It sounds like economic jargon, but the concept is actually simple. Humans do not experience income and expenses on the same schedule. Your salary comes once or twice a month, but life's expenses are constant. Rent is monthly, food is daily, kids need things on a Tuesday, the car needs a repair on a Saturday. For most of human history, people dealt with this mismatch through savings, community borrowing, or just going without. Then, sometime in the mid-20th century, a beautiful financial invention stepped in to solve this problem. Credit. And credit is not evil. That part is important. Credit, in theory, allows you to access future income today. It smooths out the bumps. It lets you buy a house before you have saved the full price. It lets you handle an emergency without falling apart. Used correctly, it is a genuinely useful tool. But here is where the story gets complicated. The same system that offers you credit also profits from you needing it. And it is extraordinarily good at making sure you keep needing it. Let us talk about how a credit card actually works, because most people think they know, and most people are slightly wrong. When you carry a balance on a credit card, meaning you did not pay the full amount last month, you start accruing interest. In India, credit card interest rates typically run between 36 and 42% annually. In the United States, the average is now over 21%. These are not small numbers. But here is the part that does not get enough attention. The minimum payment. Credit card companies allow you to pay a very small fraction of your balance each month, sometimes as low as 2 to 5% of what you owe. This sounds like generosity. It is not generosity. It is a mechanism. If you owe 50,000 rupees on a credit card at 40% annual interest, and you pay only the minimum each month, you will be paying that card off for years. The interest compounds. The balance barely moves. And every month that you make that minimum payment, the bank counts that as a successful on-time account. Your credit score looks fine. Everything looks fine. The trap has no visible walls. This is not a conspiracy. It is a business model, and it was optimized over decades to feel normal. Now, layer on top of that something economists call lifestyle inflation. And this one is deeply psychological. Every time your income increases, your expenses tend to increase at roughly the same pace or faster. You get a raise. You upgrade the apartment. The better apartment needs better furniture. Better furniture means you are the kind of person who goes to better restaurants. Better restaurants mean a better social circle. Better social circle means a vacation you probably cannot fully afford, but you are going because everyone is going. This is not weakness. This is almost entirely how social status works in every functioning society on Earth. Humans are wired to orient their spending around the people they identify with. If everyone in your peer group is spending a certain way, spending less feels like falling behind. And falling behind is not just a financial concern. It feels like a social and emotional threat. Marketers know this. They have known it for a long time. The entire architecture of modern advertising is built on the gap between where you are and where you feel you should be. Every ad is selling you a version of yourself that costs more than the one you currently have. So let us put these three things together. You have credit that smooths your lifestyle, but carries a compounding cost. You have lifestyle inflation that quietly raises the floor of what you consider normal spending. And you have a marketing system that has spent billions of dollars ensuring you never feel like you have quite enough. The result is a person who earns more than their parents ever did, lives better on the surface, and still cannot seem to get ahead. And here is the quiet irony that nobody likes to say out loud. The paycheck cycle is not a failure of the system. It is the system performing at peak efficiency. A worker who needs the next paycheck will always show up on time. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just incentive alignment. Now let us talk about what breaks the cycle, or more accurately, what most people think breaks the cycle versus what actually does. The advice you have probably heard: make a budget, cut your spending, stop buying coffee, invest in index funds, save 3 to 6 months of expenses as an emergency fund. Start a side hustle. Some of that advice is genuinely useful. The problem is that none of it addresses the underlying architecture. Telling someone who is barely covering their monthly obligations to just save more is like telling someone in a flooding basement to mop faster. What actually shifts the cycle is not a behavior change. It is a structural change. Specifically, it is the moment when your money starts generating income without requiring your direct time. This sounds like it is pointing toward investments, and it is, but not in the way the finance influencer world usually frames it. The actual break point is not about finding the perfect stock or the right mutual fund. It is about reaching a threshold where passive income, however modest, begins to cover at least one recurring expense. Even one, even something small, because that is the first moment when the architecture shifts, when the paycheck is no longer the only input, when the equation has two variables instead of one. Getting there, for most middle-class earners, takes years, not months, and it requires a tolerance for delayed gratification that a system engineered for immediate consumption is actively working against every single day. Here is where the implications get larger than just personal finance. When half a population is financially fragile, entire economies become brittle. Consumer spending, which drives most modern economies, depends on people spending money they sometimes do not quite have yet, which means credit keeps the whole machine running, which means debt is not a side effect of the modern economy. Debt is the fuel. This creates a strange dynamic where the cure and the disease look identical from a distance. More credit available means more spending means GDP grows. But it also means more fragility, more people one emergency away from default, more households doing Arjun's math in more parking lots on more Wednesday afternoons. Central banks know this. Finance ministries know this. And, to their credit, some of them try to manage it. Debt-to-income regulations, credit limits, interest rate policy. These are all attempts to keep the machine running without letting it shake itself apart. So far, mostly, it has held together. But here is the question that does not have a clean answer. If the paycheck cycle is structural, if it is baked into the incentives of credit systems, consumer culture, and status economics, then individual escape is possible, but collective escape may not be. Someone always has to be on the cycle for the cycle to function, which raises an uncomfortable thought. When we talk about financial freedom, are we describing a genuine universal path? Or are we describing a small exit door that opens for a limited number of people while the room itself stays locked? Arjun might figure it out. He might cut one expense, redirect it, build a small buffer, invest modestly, and 5 years from now, be standing on slightly different ground. That story is real. It happens. But his coworker is starting the same journey 3 years later. And his coworker's younger sibling just took on an education loan. And the person who will eventually fill Arjun's seat when he finally moves on will walk in owing money they borrowed to look employable enough to get the job. The cycle does not end because one person exits. It just finds the next entrant.